I'm sorry about that. It just held up a little bit before I press go live. How are you all? Welcome to Hucknall in Nottingham. I'm John O'Bullard, and this is the weekly hockey chat. Many thanks for the lots of questions had sent in today and over this week. It is probably going to be a little bit Panthers heavy, this one. There was a lot of questions regarding the Panthers after the results at the weekend. So just to give you a quick warning. But there are plenty of other questions as well. It's probably going to be another meaty one because there's a good dozen questions, I would say. What I would ask before, what do I think of Glasgow? I've seen on Sunday, presumably. I thought Panthers dominated the game for the first half of the game. And then I thought Glasgow dominated it once they scored. But I will come on to that in a little bit more detail a little later. I think they're 3-1 down in Guildford at the moment, playing a game tonight, Glasgow. So we'll try and keep an eye on that one as well. If you could share the link to get as many people in here as possible to add to the discussion, that would be very much appreciated on Twitter. I've also got Twitter open, so if you have any last minute questions, and there are a couple that have come in, then please do send them in at John O'Bullard on Twitter. But let's crack on. The first one is not so serious. It's from Panthers Banter. He says, "Can I buy the UK rights to your currently free stream and charge people 30 quid? No, you can't. We'll keep it free." And I know charities will probably lose out, but no, I'm not selling the rights to this yet. But there is a question around that from Chris Carr, who is a Steelers fan. And he says, after the Steelers PR this week from Sims & Co, do you think it's possibly a sign that in the interest of growing the sport, it's time for some of the old guard to start making way for fresh blood to help UK hockey evolve? I mean this in the sense of making the sport, and the Steelers specifically, less backroom of a working men's club with the odd off-colour joke thrown in here and there, and more modern with mass appeal that anyone can be proud to be part of. Really interesting question, Chris. It was an absolute PR disaster by the Steelers last week with regard to the Continental Cup stream, taking a free stream and then trying to sell it. Not good. And the backlash was very much justified, I think. And there was a lot of angry Steelers fans, and rightly so. I'm sure if Panthers had been in the same situation, there'd have been a lot of angry Panthers fans as well. I'm glad to see they relented in the end, but there was a lot of damage done, I think, in the end from that one. It was not good. It was not a good look for them at all. And it was just a complete and utter mess. There does need to be some fresh blood and fresh thinking in the sport. Unfortunately, the sport is still stuck in the old days of it. A move that Del Boy Trotter would have been proud of. Oh, I'm sure he would have been, old Del Boy. But yes, UK hockey does need some fresh blood. It does need some fresh thinking. And there are areas where that is happening. But I think the problem is we've still got a fragmented sport in the fact that there's so many different governing bodies. There isn't an overall governing body. I don't think that helps. There are questionable decisions being made at a high level that doesn't do the sport any favours. And last week was the prime example of that. There are things happening, though. I mean, you look at the Premier Sports coverage. They brought Caitlin Berry in as a ringside reporter to, just have some fresh thinking and a fresh face, and that is something certainly to be applauded. There's a lot. I think a lot of new people need to come in. There's a lot of people doing some great media and fan media around the league and around the country. And those resources, I don't think, are being tapped into enough. There's a lot of people who know the sport. There's a lot of people who are more than happy to give their time to the sport, but they're just not being used at the minute. So yes, I think the way you describe it as a backroom working men's club is pretty much spot on, to be honest, Chris. And I think you've got that absolutely right. Um, and I think there does need to be a bit of modernisation to bring about that mass appeal that you talk of. Um, the thing is, are the people in charge going to make that happen, or are they going to step aside to make that happen? Unfortunately, I can't see that at the minute. But it does need to happen. You are absolutely right. What's Mark say? Good evening, Mark. Uh, Awful look for the EIHL and UK hockey in general. North Americans looking at it thought it was a beer league. They are not wrong. Lots of fresh blood, please. Lots of talent out there. Absolutely agree, Mark. And I would include yourself in that. Yourself and Caitlin with the Hockey Across the Pond podcast. Do have a listen to that if you can. Another question from another Steelers fan, George Tor, who is in the media in South Yorkshire. And it's a really, really interesting question that George has put. And I had to think about this one a lot because it's a really good, meaty question. So it's something that's been bugging me for a while. I'd like to know, what is the future strategy of the Elite League? Where is the framework to grow the game? A marketing strategy to bring more teams into the league? A population of this size could easily accommodate 16 top flight teams. But then this goes into the problem of adequate facilities for clubs. Not every team is as lucky as Nottingham, Cardiff, Sheffield, Belfast. Is hockey in the UK heavily behind other winter sports due to the fact that the sport gets little or zero central funding from the national side not getting in the Winter Olympics? Great question. To answer that last bit, I think the fact that there are different bodies ruling different bits of the sport in this country doesn't help. And it goes back to what I was saying. I think if there was one unified governing body, I think that would help the sport massively in this country. And I think that's a big reason why we don't get the central funding, especially where the national team is concerned. For the first part of your question, I'd like to think there is some sort of framework. However, I think COVID has probably put paid to a lot of that. And I think teams are just looking to probably survive through the next 2 seasons and see how things go, because COVID hasn't gone away as much as we would like to. It hasn't. And I think sport, not just hockey, but most sports face a bit of a rocky road over the next season or so. Was basically trying to get crowds back and just seeing where the land lies with regards COVID. So I don't think that has helped. Pre-COVID, I'd have totally agreed with what you were saying. You know, a population of this size could easily accommodate 16 top flight teams. However, then you've got to look at the facilities. We have very few arenas in this country. So you've got Nottingham, Cardiff, Sheffield, Belfast, who you mentioned. Glasgow, I would mention in there at Braehead Arena. But then the rest of the teams in this country are rinks. And who realistically could step up? Leeds are a possibility, but I think they need to establish themselves more in the National League and see what crowds they can attract. Are Milton Keynes going to want to come back after what happened last time? I can't see that at the moment. So you're looking at creating teams there. Could there be a team in London? This has gone on for so long, but there still seems to be nothing appearing. And I think that could be the availability of the right venue. But also the thing I think with a London team is a team representing the whole of London isn't necessarily going to attract a lot of people, because there's no real rivalry. If you look at the Premier League in London, which I know is a lot bigger, but you've got the likes of Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham, West Ham. So you've got rivalries there within that sort of Greater London area. With a hockey team, if you've got one hockey team representing the whole of London, where's the rivalry going to be with? Who is it going to be with? I suppose Guildford would be the natural one, but is that going to be really big enough? And I think that's another thing that needs to be looking at. I think you could have accommodate 16 top flight teams, but I think there would have to be a huge reworking around it. And I think what you could be looking at is maybe 2 leagues of 8 with promotion and relegation between the two of them, with slightly different import levels. I think you'd have to bring the import levels down. I think there would have to be a massive reorganisation of how the game not only is run in this country, but how it's presented, the number of imports, the number of British players. I think it could be done, but I think it would take quite a long-term plan. But like you said, if there's a framework available, a marketing framework put out, I think it could happen. It really could happen, but it would need a lot of people, a lot of work, a lot of people to sit together, and a lot of compromise, I think, in order to get, especially if you get 16 teams that are already up and running together in what would be, I would suspect, in then League 1 or 2 would be the way of doing it, I think. Let's have a look at the comments. Andrew, to attract new fans, you need more that attracts the off-ice product, the whole match experience. Mark agrees with that. What was it? When Brick Bryant first arrived in the country, he said the only way to expand was more rinks. And that was back in 1987. Nothing has moved on. And you would love an elite Northeast team. I think we all would. I think the Northeast is a ripe area for a team. I mean, Whitley's got the rink and they've got the capacity. Has it got the facilities? But could they possibly make the step up? Probably not at the minute. But I think if there was a reworking, maybe they could. And this is the thing that I think needs to be discussed, and this is the thing that needs to be looked at. So, it needs a lot of work, but I agree with what George is saying. Where is the strategy? I think COVID has put a dampener on that for the moment, but the teams and the leagues and the owners should be looking at maybe what the future holds, and if they can possibly work together, maybe bring in more teams, or maybe look at how the game is going to be structured in this country over the next 10 years. Because I think it needs that sort of long-term planning. I totally agree with you there. Whether it's been done or not, I don't know. Whether something has been done, I don't know. But it's maybe something that should be done if it hasn't. So, yeah, great question, George, and thanks for sending that one in. Matt Alford, who's a Panthers fan, says, any thoughts on the poor attendances so far in this season at the NIC? I'm a long-time season ticket holder and I'm bored with the style of hockey. Very little checking and physicality. If I hadn't got a season ticket, I wouldn't be shelling out to watch every game. It's going to take a lot for me to renew next season at the moment. Don't expect us to win every game, but give me a Jeff Brown or Brandon Benedict type over any of our current crop. Attendances have been worrying. And when I was sat there on Sunday and saw a lot of empty seats that normally would be filled, like I'm thinking more the back of block 15, back of block 14, a lot of empty seats. And it is a worrying trend. There do seem to be less and less people going to the NIC. And that's got to be a worry for the management. And it's got to be a worry for the Panthers' future budget as well. They need more people in, and they've obviously advertised for a sales executive to particularly focus on getting more people into the building, which is a good thing. I don't know if a appointment has been made yet, but I'm sure something that will be imminent. Regarding the style of hockey, I must admit, on the first period on Sunday, I was bored. I was a bit bored, and there does seem to be being a lot of the checking and physicality has gone out the game. And I mentioned that last week that you either accept that or you don't, because there is obviously more of a focus on the safety of the players with regards bad checks. But it seems that players now are sometimes frightened to throw a hit in case they get it wrong. So we are seeing less and less physicality, and it does make for not a great style of hockey, if I'm honest. So I can totally see where you're coming from, man. And I doubt you are one of those. I doubt you're the only one who feels the same as that. I've seen a lot of comments on social media and a lot of comments on forums where people have been saying very, very similar things. So it's got to be a worry, and there does seem to be a big downward trend. But I'm going to go on to the other question, because I've had a lot of questions regarding Panthers, and they all seem to go around this sort of theme. So I'll go through all the questions, and then I'll try and give you a big rounded answer that hopefully covers all the points. So Dean Oxley says it's still early days in the season, but Panthers just seem to be lacking something. For me, the power play is awful, and also lacking that top quality goal scorer. And this seems to be the same every season. Still a lot of games to go, but it feels like points have been dropped on some important games in hand. I imagine the injuries haven't helped, but it just always seems like Panthers are a few steps behind the likes of Sheffield, Cardiff and Belfast. Harvey Hay, are Panthers turning into the most vanilla team in the Elite League? All the other teams seem to have character and the ability to excite crowds with ice hockey and physicality. Panthers seem to manage a period or two of good hockey, but by and large, it's kind of vanilla. Go back only a couple of seasons and beyond, and there were much more characters in the team that provided excitement and edge of the seat stuff with a sense of fire in their belly. I just can't see it or feel it with this side. Can it be turned around, or are we going to lose lots of old die-hard fans as the excitement, fun and physicality is taken slowly out the game? Andrew Rockley, are these worrying times for Panthers? 3 losses on the run could have been 4 if the Coventry game hadn't been called off, and with the games coming up, it could possibly be only 1 win and 8. Nick Walker, do you think the Panthers would benefit from having a power forward, physical guy, someone in the mould of Lee Salters, can play but also do the physical side, throw hits, something I believe we are missing? Finally, from Scott, who's at RimronPhil on Twitter, do the Nottingham Panthers have that killer instinct? And there's sort of a theme going through that with regards physicality being one of those things. This Panthers team is not a physical team. It does get bullied quite easily. It is lacking some quality, especially offensively. But where does that come from? Is that because of the budget that Guy and Tim Wallace have been given, or is that down to the recruitment of Guy and Tim Wallace? I would go for the former rather than the latter, for the simple reason that if you look at the rosters, I cannot believe that the Panthers have spent anywhere as much on that roster of the likes of Sheffield has spent on theirs, Belfast has spent on theirs, and possibly even Cardiff has spent on theirs. So I think this is a cheaper looking roster. I think one thing that Panthers are missing is a player, character like a Sam Hare type, who could just pick up that team and drag it along with him if things weren't going right. There's nobody in this Panthers team who I feel could do this. Going back to the other comments and around clubbing, Panthers worry me, because that club should be competing to be the best at everything it does. It's got a cracking arena in a fabulous location, allegedly a big budget team, lots of fans, and it just seems to me, I don't know, and any of the Panthers fans watching this, please tell me if I'm being fair or unfair, but it just seems that Panthers seem to do enough. They seem to do what they need to do, but they don't really seem to go that extra mile as a club, like some other clubs do. And I guess this has sort of come forth for me very recently because, as some know, I've been commentating on Manchester Storm their home games, and I go to Manchester, and there's a buzz. There's a real buzz about the building. There's a really good feeling. Everybody who works there is pulling in the same direction. They all want the same thing. Okay, they're a lower budget side. They're probably not going to compete for the league title, but there's that belief there that they can. There's a belief that they can compete, and there's just a real good feeling about the place. The atmosphere in there is great. Okay, they only get crowds at probably 1,500, but the atmosphere on Friday night against Coventry was cracking. It was brilliant in there. I absolutely loved it. And I just feel that's missing from the Panthers. I don't feel that there's that same buzz around the club like what I feel there is at Manchester. And I probably wouldn't have really noticed that had I not gone to do commentary for Manchester Storm. And yeah, and I think there just seems to be a bit of a lack of direction in Nottingham. It just doesn't feel like they want to take that step necessary to be competitive or to be, in with a chance. It just seems to be a bit, well, that'll do. It's okay. It's not bad. There just seems to be no excitement there, and I don't know if I'm being unfair. It's probably just me as a older fan who's been going many years, but I just don't feel it at the minute with Nottingham. Not like I feel it at Manchester when I go there. I mean, what's Mark say? Looking from the outside in, it appears that the Nottingham management don't seem to have a plan in place for the direction they want to take the team. Is that a fair point? That's a cracking point. I think that's probably concisely put what I'm trying to say in just a couple of sentences there, Mark. I think that's absolutely right. Are there any Panthers fans watching? Just let me. Am I being fair? Or if you're watching this after the event, drop me a message on Twitter, or just let me know on Twitter when I put the link up later at John O'Bullard. I'd really like to know what other Panthers fans think. If I think I'm being fair, Andrew, you said you couldn't agree more, so that's nice to know. I'm not the only one. I know you was one of the people who commented in all those questions that I put in. So I just feel it's just not happening at the minute. And I really like Tim Wallace, and I really like Guy Dutet. And the sort of on ice stuff, that team works its socks off. They are all hardworking. There is no posters in that team for me whatsoever. It just doesn't have the quality that other teams have. And if you haven't got that quality, then you are not going to compete. Chris, I fully agree that buzz isn't there. Yeah. So yeah, I'd just be interested to know what other teams think. And I think for me, like I say, it's been emphasised with me going to Manchester and working for them on their commentary on the webcast, and just seeing how different it is and how the buzz is there. And it's just not there at Panthers. We need an X Factor player, absolutely. We really miss Sam Hare. I think if Sam Hare was in this team, it would make a massive amount of difference. A massive amount of difference. That sort of player who can excite the fans, and you can, if things aren't going right, can pick it up and drag the team along with him. Because what we've seen in the last two games, in Manchester in the Challenge Cup, and on Sunday against Glasgow, is as soon as we went ahead in both, as soon as the opposition scored, Panthers seemed to just totally go to pot. Sunday, absolutely dominating the game, 2-0 up. Brayhead pulled one back, and then the Panthers were never back in the game. On on the previous Sunday in the Challenge Cup. Okay, the game didn't matter, but but we were 1-0 up, and then Manchester score 5 in 5.5 minutes, and the game's gone away. And it's no, you can't be a one-man band. You're right, Andrew. But what Sam here did is he made all the players around him better. And I think he gave them that lift, where he made them play at their absolute best. We need an arena of Block 19 energy. But the thing is, if it's not happening on the ice, what happens on the ice has got to translate into exciting the fans to create the atmosphere. It's a two-way street there, Jack. Yeah. The Panthers are, as an organisation, from the outside are odd, always have been, but they feel like a runner out of puck. If it was an NHL team, it would be rebuilding time. Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think it needs some fresh. I think Panthers need some fresh ideas, and I think they've done it off on the ice with Wallace and Doucette. And like I say, I'm actually quite happy with the team. I'm happy with their work rate. I just don't think they're of the same quality as other teams in the league. And that is probably down to the budget that they've been given. I don't know figures, but just looking at the rosters in the Elite League, that's what I put it down to. So I'm quite happy with that. But I think it just needs some fresh ideas and fresh thinking, maybe off the ice. And they have done a good thing with recruiting for a sales executive, but whoever comes in has got to be given the freedom to run with their ideas. I think bringing in webcasts finally is been a good thing, but it's right, and there's other people. It just seems a bit stale and lacking of fresh ideas. Is that down to the ownership? Is that down to the management? I don't know. I mean, I genuinely don't know. But it just seems to be plodding along. There doesn't seem to be a reach to be the best. And the thing is, everything that club has going for it with regards to the location, regards to the arena, that club should be aiming to be the best in everything it does, and it's not. And that, to me, is unacceptable. Kelsall is stepping up, top marks. Yes, he is. He's got better and better this season. He really has improved. A real positive of this season. He's come back in. Great goal on Sunday as well. Really, really good snipe. Does it also mean the quality of import is not around at the moment? Good point, Andrew. And I think this is another point where people are saying they want player replacements, but there's no point in replacing players unless you can replace them with someone better. And I don't think better players are available. And that's not just a Panthers thing, that's a league thing. For the Andres Valdix has gone to Sheffield, or went to Sheffield for the Continental Cup after playing 12 games for Cardiff. Didn't get much ice time, didn't score any points. Could you see Andres Valdix a couple of seasons ago going to Sheffield with them figures? I couldn't, but they need bodies because of injuries, so that's why he's gone there. So, lack of desire to excel. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. So yeah, it's rather depressing diatribe there about the Panthers, but I suppose you need to see things from the outside to really see how different things are. And as I say, going to work for the Storm has really, really opened my eyes, because you just see how different it is. And and it's it doesn't fill me. It doesn't make me happy having to say it, but I think it needs to be said, and I think things need to be done, and fresh thinking. It does need fresh thinking and fresh ideas, and I hope things like bringing in the sales executive at the start of that sort of thing. But it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of work to get it up to where it needs to be, in my opinion. But like I say, for those watching on replay, just let me know. Just let me know what you think as well. Am I being fair? It seems that most of the Panthers fans on this are pretty much of the same train of thought as I am. So, how long is it until Lane is showing the door? Two assists, I believe, in the Elite League play is not good enough. But it's like I say, is anyone better available to replace him? Unless there's someone better to replace him, then what can you do? And I think that's the point that needs to be made. Is if you're not going to replace anyone with somebody better, then it's pointless replacing anybody. Is the way I see it. Let's move on because we've still got a couple more questions. And Craig Harrison said, "Will ice hockey be like basketball in 5 years' time with no contact?" I think, Craig, what you're probably meaning there is no checking. And as I've said earlier, it seems to be going that way. Checking seems to be coming out of the game for some reason. And I think maybe it's a fear of getting called or getting a penalty called against you. But yeah, there is a distinct lack of physicality, a lot less than there used to be. And I'm not talking about we need to go back to the days where there were 3 or 4 fights a game. I'm not, but I'd just like to see a lovely, beautifully timed open ice check once in a while, or a check along the boards once in a while. I don't think it will become non-checking, but I think there's less and less checking because players are actually afraid to check in case they get a major penalty or get dops on their back. It is the way I see it. Whether that's true or not, I guess you would have to ask the players involved. But yeah, dear. But yes, I think checking is becoming a lost art form, and it does appear to be sort of moving out of the game, which is a shame, which is a real shame. Yet you get a lot of skill, and the skilled players get to do their thing. But yeah, for me, there is nothing better than seeing a real proper open ice hit. Checking is very much alive in the NIHL. The issue is with inconsistency, of course. I don't think that's any more of an issue at elite league level. But we shall see. We shall see. Bailey Arnold Wilkins says, liking the new interactive initiative at Fife with the local artists being shown and Twitter posts, etc. But is this a sign of change within the club as a whole for the future, or just a few volunteers seeing how Flyers fans feel and trying to do the right thing? I've seen they've been doing that sort of thing, and all power to them. And it's the sort of thing that we've probably been talking about with regards to Panthers don't do. Is that Fife are trying something new and see how it goes down, and full respect for that and full credit to that. So yeah, all power to them. And he says, also, how can they have not brought up Shaber yet? Do you think the league should intervene in any way? That seems to have gone quiet again. Chase Shaber signed, was it October? Still not played for the Flyers. I think from what I've heard, it's something to do with him not having 2 COVID vaccines. The league have a rule that everyone who plays here should be double vaccinated, and I think that's what it's down to. But I don't want to sort of speculate because that may not be right, but that seems to be what it is. Ashley 941300 on Twitter says, "Be intrigued to know who you believe is the strongest Scottish side. I've only watched Dundee and Glasgow as at the moment, but we'll see Fife on Sunday. But wonder what your opinion is on this." I haven't seen Fife either. Funnily enough, I would say the strongest Scottish team I've seen so far is Dundee Stars in the 2 games that I've seen them play the Panthers. they look really, really good. But obviously the stats don't bear that out because they're towards the bottom of the league with only 3 points, which really surprises me. Because the 2 games, as I say, they've seen them against Panthers. I really thought they would look good, and I said on an earlier hockey chat, as I said on an earlier hockey chat, that I think they have the ability to be the sort of surprise package this season. And it just hasn't turned out that way, as it is, because I thought they looked a really, really good side both times they've been in Nottingham. But they are taking some quite heavy beatings at the minute, unfortunately. So of that, having not seen Fife, Glasgow looked okay on Sunday, but Panthers dominated them for half the game until they scored, and then they were the much better team. But I think overall, I'd have to say Dundee, but the stats don't bear that out, as I said. What is it? When will Tim show some character and give an interview that says how it is for once instead of that content feeling? I think the lack of comes from Wallace. I wouldn't say that, not from. I've spoken to him a couple of times, spoke to him in Manchester after the game with an interview. He did not look happy after the game in Manchester, and from what I was told on Sunday, he was not happy after the game there. So I think outwardly Wallace doesn't look like he shows much passion, but you don't know what he's like in the locker room. And let's not forget, he has built teams. This is a team or a club that won the Elite Series. Now, you can say what you like about the Elite Series, but Panthers did really well in that tournament. And Wallace was the coach, and he got the best out of them. Panthers weren't the best team in that competition by any stretch. The Steelers were. But Wallace got them playing really well and got them to win that competition. So we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. I've got to be honest, I like Tim Wallace. And I think he's a good coach. But, you know, he doesn't, at the end of the day, he doesn't recruit the team. Guy Doucette recruits the team. And then we don't know what budget that Guy Doucette has been given for this recruitment. So there we go. So very professional interviews with not much honest truth. But the thing is, does he say what people would expect to hear and then let's rip in the locker room? Like I say, behind closed doors, you have no idea. None of us have no idea what he's saying to the team or what he's doing with the team. The team seem to respect him, and the team seem to skate through brick walls at times. Like you say, I've got no issue with the work rate from the Panthers team. I think they all work very hard to a man. It's just, I think there's a lack of quality, offensively, especially, but just a lack of that star player. Playing against Musselburgh, but we played. I disagree. We played Belfast and got tonked. We played Sheffield quite a lot because of this ridiculous Challenge Cup. But yeah, I don't know. It's really, really difficult to say in the minute, but it's not good. And Sunday was not good. Let's be honest. Guildford Flames now sit top of the Elite League. Chances of them winning it all. Decent side. Have they got the stamina? Have they got the stamina to go all the way over 54 games, though? That's the question I'd ask. Have they got the depth? I'm not sure. I'm not sure they have. But it's nice to see someone different sitting at the top of the Elite League. So give the fans some passion. Like, you need to show the fans there's passion every now and then. I would agree. It would. I suppose in a way it would be nice after a particularly bad defeat. There was remember Corey Nielsen after we beat a Spanish team in the Continental Cup. when it was at the NIC. And the interview he gave to Aaron Bradley was like just one word answers, and you could tell he was absolutely raging. So yeah, yeah, it was nice to show some passion every now and then. But yeah, I like Tim Wallace, and I'm not gonna lie, I do like him as a coach. But I know not everyone is going to think the same. Don't think my soul could handle Guildford winning. Of course you wouldn't, Anthony. You'd love it. I think it'd be great if for someone different, so for someone like Guildford to win the league. I just don't think they have. I just don't think they have the depth to cope with being top for a 54 league season. But then again, Leicester City went and won the Premier League a few years ago, didn't they? So we shall see. Right, 40 minutes we've been going. So any final questions, if you want to drop them into the chat box, please do. Hoping to be back next week. We're the usual time of 9 o'clock next Tuesday. If you do have any questions in the meantime, if you think of any through the week, happy to take them through the week. Don't just wait till Tuesday. So pop them in my DM or send me a notification on Twitter at John O'Bullard, and I will keep them saved for next week's show. I would rather chew glass whilst wearing a Bees jersey. God blimey, all right. You really don't like Guildford, do you, Anthony? Oh yes, just a reminder, Anthony will have the What's Current stream tomorrow at 8 p.m. So do look out. Do look out for that on Twitter at BannersOTW on Twitter. All the NIHL roundup. It's well worth a watch. So tune in to Anthony tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Mark, it's a tough job for a coach to come out and rip his players in public if he knows there isn't the budget to replace them with better talent. Good point. Good point. I like him as a coach, just very much a people pleaser. It comes across as. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from there. Did I watch any of the Steelers Continental Cup games? I think I watched the first period on Sunday, but that was it. I was in Manchester on Friday, so I didn't see that. And then Saturday I was out for my birthday, so I didn't see any then. So no, I think I just saw sort of a bit of the first period on Sunday before I headed out to the game. So no, I didn't. It's a shame, really, but I think they were absolutely hampered by injuries. And when you're playing 3-3 against teams with 4 lines, that is going to take its toll. And it took its toll on that Sunday, and they lost 4-0, which is a shame because, British teams have made the final of the Continental Cup since 2016, I think, maybe 2017. So, I think a full-strength Steelers team would have walked that group. But as it was, they were suffering with injuries, so they didn't make it through, which is very unlucky for them. But these are the things that happen, and the new rules mean that they are not going to have the personnel. Connolly injured for Saturday. Saturday is a nothing game because it's Challenge Cup. So I would think Steelers will take the opportunity to rest a lot of players, and maybe Panthers as well. I would like to think Will Curlin will start on Saturday. I'd like to see Steelers maybe start one of their British backups. Whether they will or not, I don't know, but it would be nice to see in a game that means absolutely jack, frankly. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens on Saturday. Right, I'm going to wrap it up there. Enjoy your hockey wherever you are watching it this week. Thank you so much for joining me, as usual. Really do appreciate your company on these Tuesday nights. And I will speak to you again next week. But for the rest of the week, take care, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.